Ria TV, True FM.
Say Ria TV, True FM.
On Ria TV,
into True FM 96.1.
what's the meaning of the black barrier?
The black barrier is to tell Joseph Barker if you don't organize yourself in a respectful manner, we'll take your data like
You might say what you want to say, but for us, we are here to make sure we build our country, that we are respected. We have donors that are coming because of the confidence.
Some news summary of 12. My name is Hansen the Represent. Welcome to News and Analysis 30 minutes of news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and our one world.
Presenting this newscast is proudly sponsored by Orange Liberia and EcoBank Liberia Limited.
How is life after the presidency?
But before the president.
February 2024, the President good evening and welcome to News Desk for the 5 minutes of news from the News and Current Affairs Department here at the Renaissance Communications Incorporated. My name is Johnson Gbarntolmah Marka. In the headlines, President Joseph Barker appoints a national committee to oversee the proper reburial of former presidents William Arotoro, and Samuel Kayanto says the initiative is part of broader efforts to reconcile the country. Following his conviction on drug charges, Fifth Judicial Circuit Court in Grand Cape Conference sentences for the 2-year-old Abbas Sano to 40 years in prison. Government of Liberia says it is bracing itself for the consequences of the United States suspension of aid in the tune of about $120 million United States dollars, and away from Liberia, South Africa's finance minister forced to suspend unveiling of national budget following sharp disagreements within the coalition government, according to the BBC. This plus many more divorces of the newsmakers, sports, as well as the news bulletin are all packaged on today's edition of the program News Desk. Orange Liberia and EcoBank Liberia Limited allow sponsors on the program. We'll take a break to be back.
Ria TV, True FM.
Say Ria TV, True FM.
On Ria TV,
into True FM 96.1.
With John Marka Davis, who will set the pace with the reading of the news bulletin. Good evening.
Good evening, Johnson. Good evening to all. President Joseph Barker has appointed a national committee to oversee the proper reburial of former presidents William Arotoro and Samuel Kayanto. In his annual message last month, President Barker declared the government's commitment to according dignified burials to President Tobert and his cabinet members who were killed in April 1980, as well as President Doe, who was slain during the Liberian Civil War. The president said this historic initiative is part of the government's broader efforts to foster national unity, reconciliation, and healing by bringing closure to a painful chapter in Liberia's history. Those appointed on the committee are Senator Zoe Pennon of Grand Jide County, Senator Darius Dillon Monserrato, Madam Clevender Parker, a senior citizen, Councillor Gloria Mususcard, former Chief Justice, and Major General Davison Follett, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Others are Ambassador Ethel Davis, Member, Policy Advisory Council, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, representative of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Madam Elfrida Tama, April 22nd Memorial Group, Bernard Ayure, former Director General, Liberia Maritime Authority, John T. Richardson, and Reverend Emmett Dunn. According to an executive mansion release, the committee, chaired by Education Minister Dr. Jaso Jala, will be responsible for planning and executing a program to ensure the dignified reburial of the two former presidents. The government of Liberia says it is bracing itself for the consequences of the United States suspension of aid in the tune of about $120 million United States dollars. These funds, through the USAID, were supporting various projects in the country, including tax mobilization, education, health, and elections. Finance Minister Johnson Gbarntolmah told The Voice of America that the cancellation of funding for all USAID-sponsored projects in the country has direct and indirect impact on the country's development. Speaking on VOA Daybreak Africa, Gbarntolmah said USAID was Liberia's second largest donor, besides the World Bank, financing projects in health, education, agriculture, and elections. The Finance and Development Planning Minister, however, stated that Liberia is resilient and will overcome this latest obstacle in its development drive. According to Minister Gbarntolmah, the government is working around the clock with bilateral and multilateral organizations, regional and international institutions, and with loans from other banking institutions to cover the gap created by the freeze on financial assistance to USAID-sponsored projects in Liberia. In a related development, the Institute for Research and Democratic Development, ARED, has proposed several recommendations to President Boakai amidst the suspension of funding to all USAID activities in Liberia. ARED Executive Director Dan Sai said, as a result of the recent decision by President Donald Trump to halt all USAID activities, President Boakai should now focus on key sectors in the country. Sai, in his recommendation, wants President Joseph Boakai to carry on total review of all concessions to ensure their operations are redesigned to reflect the Liberian business sector. According to him, Liberia is at a critical point where deliberate actions are needed to have the economy in a better shape. The ARED Executive Director believes that the current situation does not only affect Liberia but other African countries that are benefiting aid through the United States Agency for International Development. At the same time, the ARED Executive Director has termed as troubling and disheartening the lack of trust and confidence in the Liberian justice system. According to Dan Sai, it should signal to members of the High Court to redirect their scope of workings as citizens are beginning to express their frustration and lack of trust in the system. Sai believes that once an ordinary citizen sees the court as being corrupt, disregard to the rule of law, and rendering unfair judgment could cause severe unrest. He also added that it is demoralizing on the part of elected officials to have abandoned their core functions and now engaged into consistent fight at the legislature. The 5th Judicial Circuit Court in Grand County has sentenced convict Abbas Sanon to 40 years in prison. Judge Usman Fekar sentenced defendant Sanon after he was adjudged guilty for being in possession of 31 kilograms of kush valued over 100 million Liberian dollars. Defendant Sanon, age 42, according to RCR judicial correspondent, was found guilty for 2 separate offenses, which warranted Judge Fekar to issue the maximum jail sentence consistent with the 2023 drug law. His crimes include unlicensed possession of controlled drugs and trafficking of controlled drugs, each of which carries the penalty of 20 years in prison as provided by law. But defense lawyer Torgbean passed away took exception to Judge Usman Fekar's final judgment with an appeal to the Supreme Court with the hope of overturning the court's judgment as provided by Chapter 24, Section 24.1 and 2 of the Criminal Procedure Law of Liberia. Our judicial correspondent further revealed that the 42-year-old defendant will complete his prison sentence at the age of 82 at the Bravo Sports Prison Center in Grand County. Prior to the court's decision, defendant Abbas Sanon was arrested in 2024 by law enforcement officers in Grand County while in transit from Guinea through Sierra Leone to Liberia with the kush concealed at the back of his minibus. The headquarters of the Liberia National Police was a scene of protest on Wednesday as the police invited representatives Abu Kamara and Dixon Sibo in connection to the recent arson attack on the Capitol building. The police have since declared the 2 lawmakers as persons of interest in the fire incident following preliminary investigation. The citizens, most of them members of the opposition Congress for Democratic Change, told journalists that they have gone to the police headquarters in solidarity with their lawmakers. Meanwhile, a stalwart of the CDC, Len Eugene Nangwe, said the police investigation is not holistic but selective. Nangwe, who is chief of staff to former President George Weah, wants the police to invite all persons connected to the fire incident instead of only members of the opposition. He said the CDC is a law-abiding party and will ensure that their partisans linked to the Capitol building fire cooperate with the investigation. The Senate Committee on Internal Affairs, Governance, and Reconciliation has conducted confirmation hearing for Grand Bassa County Superintendent Designate Kayu Johnson. Johnson was recently appointed by President Boakai and will replace the late Superintendent Julia Bondo if confirmed by the Senate. Speaking before the Senate committee, Johnson promised to prioritize President Boakai's arrest agenda for inclusive development. He named unity, inclusive youth and women empowerment as his top priority areas, as well as incorporating all views in decision-making in the interest of the county. Kayu Johnson thanked President Boakai for his nomination to replace the late Senator Bondo. Prior to his appointment, Johnson served as Grand Bassa County Health Administrator. The Liberia Council of Churches has expressed concerns about the increase in violence and lawlessness amongst members of the House of Representatives. The Secretary General of the Council, Reverend Dr. Christopher Toll, said the forceful removal of Speaker Funati Kopa, the parking of vehicle where it is not supposed to, and draining of the vehicle belonging to Representative Yeka Koluba are all signs that things are getting off hand. Speaking to the press on Wednesday in Monrovia, Reverend Toll maintained that the lawmakers are not setting good records for the young people to emulate. The Liberia Council of Churches Secretary General is therefore encouraging both the majority and minority blocks of the House of Representatives to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court by acting in accordance with the law. The Catholic Relief Services and the Liberia Institute of Public Administration have signed a memorandum of understanding to train middle-level officials in the government. CRS Country Representative Glenys Cummins John signed for institution, while LIPA Director General Niala Vapila signed on behalf of the Liberia Institute of Public Administration. During the signing, Madam Glenys Cummins John said the MOU is intended to support the training of middle-level officials of government through LIPA. She said the training will enhance collaborative spirit, effectiveness, and productivity in government. Madam Cummins John assured LIPA that the Catholic Relief Services will provide resources to ensure that the training takes place at all middle levels in government, with the aim of reducing some of the friction reported in recent days. In remarks, LIPA Director General Niala Vapila welcomed the MOU and expressed his hope that the training will go a long way in helping the government. According to Vapila, the Liberia Institute of Public Administration is the reservoir of training and professionalism in government, assuring the Catholic Relief Services that LIPA will ensure that the MOU is fully implemented. Casual workers of the Ministry of Youth and Sports are demanding the settlement of their 7-month salary arrears. The workers on Wednesday staged a peaceful protest at the Ministry of Youth and Sports demanding their just benefits. Speaking to journalists on Wednesday, Louis Pay explained that since Minister Cole Bangalu took over, they are yet to receive their salaries for 7 months, despite promising to work with them and to ensure that the young people among them are employed. The group of casual workers is therefore calling on the government and President Joseph Boakai, the Justice Ministry, and other relevant authorities to intervene in their situation. And out of Liberia now, South Africa's finance minister has been forced to postpone the unveiling of the national budget following sharp disagreements within the coalition government. Coalition partners derailed his budget after opposing his plan to raise value-added tax or VAT, which would have seen the prices of goods go up at a time when South Africans are hard hit by the cost of living crisis. The finance minister is a member of the African National Congress, which was forced to enter into a coalition after losing its parliamentary majority in elections last year. His failure to table the budget sent shockwaves in South Africa, as it has never happened since the end of apartheid in 1994. The currency plummeted against the US dollar as markets reacted negatively to the news. The Democratic Alliance, which is the second biggest party in the coalition, was one of the most vocal critics of the proposed budget. Its leader, John Stenson, said the party could not in good conscience agree to a VAT increase from 15 to 17%, as it would have broken the back of the economy. VAT was last increased in 2018 from 14% to 15%. The ANC's other coalition partners, like the Freedom Front Plus, said they were only told of the proposed hike before the minister was due to table the budget. The finance minister told journalists that the planned increase was mentioned in the cabinet last week. The budget will now be tabled on 12 March following further discussions to iron out differences, the minister said. Well, that's the bulletin of news. Is back to Johnson Gbarntolmah.
Across Africa, a new era has begun, shifting our focus to a new horizon, connecting us with one purpose: to create and share opportunities to grow. Today, we are making a brighter tomorrow, built by our dreams and our energy. Across our continent, across the world, we are creating a better way to a better future. A Pan-African future. Together. EcoBank. A better way, a better Africa.
The news bulletin is the regular feature here on News Desk. Thanks to Marka Davis for bringing us the news bulletin. If you are just joining us, this News Desk for the 5 minutes of news from the News and Current Affairs Department here at the Renaissance Communications Incorporated. In one of our top developments, following his conviction on drug charges, 5th Judicial Circuit Court in Grand Cape County sentences for the 2-year-old Abba Sanon to 40 years in prison. Let's now bring you our first development on the program. The government of Liberia says it is bracing itself from the consequences of the United States suspension of aid in a sum of about $120 million United States dollars. These funds, through the USAID, were supporting various projects in the country, including the tax mobilization, education, health, and that's elections. Finance Minister Johnson Gbarntolmah told the Voice of America that the cancellation of the funding for all USAID-sponsored projects in the country will have direct and indirect impact on the country's development.
The U.S. government is trying to gain the American ambassador
Indeed, this project that we call the Local Empowerment for Accountability and Decentralization Project is among, I think, a list of the 7 projects that have been cancelled under this aid freeze or aid cancellation program.
Can you describe for us the nature of some of the projects? You just mentioned one.
Well, this new project, this $72 million project, was really helping us in domestic resource mobilization. We have set an ambitious agenda to increase domestic revenue through the Liberia Revenue Authority. USAID was the new partner assisting us to roll out a new tax system from what we call the goods and service tax to a value-added tax by 2026. It comes with training, it comes with investment in systems. USAID are also been giving us support for our tax database called the INTAS. This project was also assisting us in improving our revenue collection in local terrain.
So, Minister, in addition to this particular project you just described, are there other projects in Liberia that are being affected as a result of the USAID project?
Yes, there are projects that are being affected. Projects in education, or projects in health, projects in governance, some support to election commission, USAID has been supporting a lot of international and local NGOs in trying to make our election system transparent, to observe the election and what have you. So it affects a panoply of sectors, especially these sectors. Their direct impact and indirect, because some international organizations have also been supported by USAID. So some of them, they downstream their support. USAID was our second largest donor next to the World Bank. They have committed more than $442 million United States dollars to Liberia over this period, I think from 2022 to 2029. Just this year, we have concluded an agreement for putting up the support in the tune of $120 billion to benefit women, education, health, agriculture. They've been supporting hospitals with drugs, school feeding program for kids.
What is Liberia doing right now to mitigate the freeze of U.S. assistance?
Firstly, we have decided to assess the full impact. So the Ministry of Finance just concluded a report that we submitted to the President yesterday, and we are submitting to the legislature on the short-term, long-term impact and what we are going to do. We're going to be engaging our partners. We are going to up our domestic resource mobilization. Yes, USAID was helping us in that regard, but there are other things we are doing to make sure that what we do for ourselves can compensate for the aid we borrow. We are also going to be engaging in some fiscal tightening to make sure that we reduce losses, abuses and wastage. Also, we are engaging new partners. We are looking at regional cooperation, social cooperation. In that regard, in our various blocks, whether it's ECOWAS, the AU, and others, there are conversations already ongoing as to what we can do in our collectivity to reduce the impact on our country on account of what has happened.
Finance and Development Planning Minister Johnson Gbarntolmah speaking on VOA Daybreak Africa. In a related development, the Institute for Research and Democratic Development has proposed several recommendations to President Joseph Boakai amidst the suspension of funding to all USAID activities in Liberia. Our Executive Director Densai said, as a result of the current decision by President Donald Trump to halt all USAID activities, President Joseph Boakai should now focus on key sectors within the country. Saying in his recommendation wants President Boakai to carry on total review of all concessions to ensure their operations are redesigned to reflect the Liberian business sector.
Yes, I think it has
impact on the functioning of our economy. Good number of our citizens work for agencies that work for the USAID contractors that are here working in Liberia. They also have subcontractors who are Liberians, and these Liberians work for Liberian organizations. They may estimate, I think, about 10,000 persons may have been affected by these suspensions of the USAID activity. Patients also who are in hospitals are also affected. Schools also being affected. It's affecting Liberians abroad as well. Even though it is a suspension of this program, I think there are other alternatives that we can also use. And some of the alternatives that we can use, we control how we make decisions on our concessions, for example. I think in order to deal with this situation, the government could have done a number of things that will remedy some of these solutions. I think President Boakai making sure that he places a moratorium on a number of concessions, review the concessions, and make sure that the concessions are remodeled to reflect Liberian businesses. You could also make sure that you make a pronouncement to make sure that stationery, for example, should all be just outsourced to Liberian businesses, to empower Liberian businesses. Make sure that you transfer a lot of responsibility to Liberian businesses to create jobs. So all of these people who are losing their jobs into those places, they're going to find jobs in the private sector. So the government has those kind of decisions in its purview that 2 million Liberians are going out of job. And if this situation is not handled as quickly as possible, private sector will do it all and provide a solution to a great extent for people who will be losing all these opportunities because of the pronouncement Trump has made and because of the situation in our country over the last 6 years that we have had. In this country, we got to empower them, but we need deliberate action from the government, policies that will make sure that wealth is transferred into the hands of the Liberian people. And Liberian businesses are doing very well. Liberian businesses are serious. If it were not for private sector in this country, by now, I think there will be a serious civil disorder across the community. But people are managing themselves through their businesses. So the government now needs to step in to make sure that a lot of actions is taken to create the kind of environment for businesses progress.
Then Sai is the executive director of the Institute for Research and Democratic Development. They're speaking to our reporter, Koris Kanga. Another development, or at the same time, the RED executive director has termed as troubling and disheartening the lack of trust and confidence in the Liberian justice system. According to Dan Saye, issue similar to memos of the highest court to redirect their scope of workings as citizens are beginning to express their frustration and lack of trust in the system. Saye believes that once the citizen sees the court as being corrupt, disregard for the rule of law and rendering unfair judgment could cause civil unrest.
Our judiciary has been characterized by problems. The system is corrupt. Lawyers take bribe. The public seem not to have trust and confidence in the judicial system. Investors are nervous about our judiciary. Human rights reports have always come hard on our judiciary. So we need to work hard. I mean, rule of law has been violated by even governmental officials at the higher level. So we need to do a lot. Our entire government structure, the system, has been broken, is fragmented to a very great extent. Everybody, no matter what position you have, how profile you are, you should be respectful to our laws. To a great extent, most of the violations have been across all branches of the government. It would be well for us to build this society, to build investors' confidence, to make sure that the young people who are coming up come up well and live within the confines of our law. Those who are in power need to start to respect. Within the intellectual bracket, the government is making some progress. Within the ordinary people's bracket, the government is not going back to create jobs. I think the government security has improved in the country. You don't have to go on thinking that there'll be a circle behind you and all that kind of stuff and so forth. But the economic and social security of the Liberian people is still of a serious concern. Because when people are unemployed, of course, housing will be a situation because they are unable to pay for rent, they are unable to provide shelter sufficiently for themselves.
Dan Sai is the executive director of ARET. They're speaking to a reporter, Koris Kanga. The Liberian Council of Churches has expressed concerns about the increase in violence and lawlessness among members of the House of Representatives. LCC Secretary General Reverend Dr. Christopher Toole said the forced removal of Speaker Funadi Kofa, the parking of car where it is not supposed to, and draining of a vehicle belonging to a lawmaker or a sons that things are getting off hand. Speaking to the press Wednesday in Monrovia, Reverend Toole maintained that the lawmakers are not setting good records for the young people to emulate.
And unbecoming behaviors, issue even relating to the brain of the capital, which is very unfortunate that people we elect to offices can bring the nation to public ridicule. The council found on what has happened at the legislature. We feel that with us as the first branch of government personnel should be able to provide explicit leadership, the excellent leadership, the intelligent leadership of this country, and that our children follow because they are the lawmakers. They direct the pathway of this country. They make appropriation of budget that has to do with the forward movement of this country. The public is looking at the legislature as that body of innovation. And it's unfortunate that what transpired few days as the legislation is taking different dimension. The judiciary, especially Supreme Court ruling on the issue with regard to the fracas between the majority bloc and that of the minority bloc has exacerbated, and it's very unfortunate that when even their interpretation of the Supreme Court, the first branch of government, has yet to live up to amicable solution. Now, the Council of Churches, we are also planning on many of the leaders of the church, and after that, we will see how we can also include members of other faith institutions. The country needs to take actions where we feel that the leadership is not provided. The church needs to take action in terms of how we want our country to move forward. This is very unfortunate to see that car is broken into, people parking their cars the way it has to be parked. These are things that are not good for our democracy, which will be law-abiding officers. When we make law, we should be abided by the law. If someone parked their car in a place that is not appropriate on their action, the law should be able to take this course.
He is the Secretary General of the Liberia Council of Churches, Reverend Christopher Tu, speaking at the press conference in Monrovia. If you are just joining us, this is News Desk, 45 minutes of news from the News and Current Affairs Department here at the Renaissance Communications Incorporated. In our top developments, President Joseph Boakai appoints a national committee to oversee the proper reburial of former presidents William Albert Toro, and Samuel Kaido says the initiative is part of broader efforts to reconcile the country. Following his conviction on drug charges, the Federal Circuit Court in Grand Cape County sentences for the 2-year-old Abba Sano to 40 years in prison. Government of Liberia says it is bracing itself from the consequences of the United States suspension of aid in the tune of about $120 million United States dollars, and away from Liberia, South Africa's finance minister forced to postpone unveiling of the national budget following sharp disagreements within the coalition government, according to the BBC. We sincerely apologize we could not bring you the partial live sports here on News Desk. Let's bring you more developments on the program. The Senate Committee on Internal Affairs, Governance and Reconciliation has conducted a confirmation hearing for Grand Bassa County Superintendent Designate Kayu Johnson. Johnson was recently appointed by President Joseph Boakai and will replace the late Superintendent Judah Bondo if confirmed by the Senate. Speaking before the Senate Committee, Johnson promised to prioritize President Boakai's arrest agenda for inclusive development.
On the journey to serve as Superintendent of Myean County, my leadership will be ongoing in the arrest agenda and 4 other key pillars to guide the county towards sustainable growth and development. The pillars of my vision are reconciliation, to unify the county and bridge existing divides. We have youth empowerment, to create opportunity that enhance youth potential and empower them for the future. We have women empowerment, to ensure women active participation in decision making and promote equal opportunity, where women will have 40% of decision making under my leadership as Superintendent of Grand Bassa County. We will also look at the health sector of Grand Bassa County, where we have a robust healthcare infrastructure to address the need of all citizens. As we look forward, our leadership will be aligned with the arrest agenda, which is a national agenda that have been developed by the government to carry this country for the next time on our Excellency President Joseph Boakai. On this agenda, we look at agriculture, rule of law, education, sanitation, and tourism. If I'm confirmed, our leadership will focus on achieving sustainable development in Grand Bassa by prioritizing health, youth empowerment, women participation, reconciliation. The arrest agenda will be the cornerstone of my administration, fostering alignment with national development goals and contributing to the prosperity of our county and our nation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Senator Asami, thanks.
He is Kayu Johnson. He is the former Grand Bassa County Health Administrator and Grand Bassa County Superintendent Designate, there speaking at the Liberia Senate. The headquarters of the Liberian National Police was a scene of protest on Wednesday as the police invited Representatives Abu Kamara and Dixon Sibu in connection to the recent arson attack on the Capitol building. The police have since declared the two lawmakers as persons of interest in the fire incident following preliminary investigation. The citizens, most of them members of the opposition Congress for Democratic Change, told journalists that they have gone in solidarity with their lawmakers. Meanwhile, a stalwart of the CDC, Len Eugene Nangwe, said the police investigation is not holistic but selective. Nangwe, who is the chief of staff to former President George Weah, wants the police to invite all persons connected to the fire incident instead of only members of the opposition.
We live in the rule of law as a political party, and we have some issues with the way the police proceeded because we thought there will be a holistic investigation. But step by step, this is why our vice chair and also the Rosivo came to cooperate with the police because they have nothing to hide.
Why do you think the investigation is not holistic?
If you look at all of those who they are calling, there are aspects that we thought should also be looked at. Remember, the CDC did issue a statement under the signature of our acting chairman, Jangako, where he, called for holistic investigation, of all of those who were associated with the incident, including those who had the keys to the building, those who have control of the building. Nobody talking to them, but yes, still it's the police, and we will see how they go with the investigation. What happened yesterday is not an arrest. We saw an invite. So they are there with their lawyers, and I'm sure after the conference, they will be there. The CDC said if there is an illegal, that's why we resist. But we are law-abiding people. So if there is things that are done legally, why not? We always follow the law.
Do you trust the integrity of the police as it relates to those being named?
The police will have to prove the allegations, and this is why we have a legal system. So it's not about what I trust or I don't trust. It's about whether they will follow the legal process, from the police investigation all the way to the courts. So all the CDC members that have been arrested and all of those are being investigated have been cooperating. So it means that we are a law-abiding party.
Len Eugene Nangwe is a stalwart of the Congress for Democratic Change and the chief of staff to former President George Weah. They're speaking at headquarters of the Liberia National Police. The Cali Relief Services and the Liberia Institute of Public Administration have signed a memorandum of understanding to train middle-level officials in the government. CRS Country Director Gladys Cummings John signed for her institution, while LIPA Director General Nia Lavapula signed on behalf of the Liberia Institute of Public Administration. Speaking during the signing ceremony, CRS Country Representative Gladys Cummings said the MOU is intended to support the training of middle-level officials of government through LIPA.
On this, partnership is essential to everything that we do. We work in partnership with all of our programs, with all of our policy influencing work, and it's just part of our DNA. And partnering with such a credible institution is really a positive direction for CRS to move in. I believe that this is the beginning of fruitfulness, good results, good impact, and positive impacts across the national level and decentralized level, because of the joint efforts that we've been putting in together to achieve capacity strengthening in peace building, education, social cohesion, and rural development. I'm also looking forward to seeing how we can put our minds together, our teams together, to explore funding opportunities to build on some of the work that has already started. This MOU is just the beginning, and I know that a lot of positive things are going to come out of it. So I'm very happy that we are really setting the foundation of our relationship through this MOU today.
She is CRS, that the Cali Relief Services Country Representative to Liberia. She's Gladys Cummings John there speaking in remarks. LIPA Director General Niala Bapula welcomed the MOU and expressed his hope that the training will go a long way in helping government. According to Vapula, the Liberia Institute of Public Administration is a reservoir of training and professionalism in government, assuring the CRS that LIPA will ensure that the MOU is fully implemented.
We are excited as well because we believe sustainability starts here. All of the technical expertise you bring to this country, the knowledge you try to transfer should be housed somewhere. That is our vision at LIPA, to create a center of excellence in Liberia. So for me, this is a match made in heaven, and we hope that the good work that I started under this MOU, signing today, continues. I'd like to point out that it's not just with the managers on national level, but at decentralized level, it's of key interest. And I think this MOU will unlock a lot of opportunities, because if we tap into your experiences from working at the community level, working with everyday people to become leaders in their own development, and bring those experiences on board in designing orientational modules that incorporate peace building, but not only for that, but also promote inclusion at the decentralized level in governance. And that's, for me, beyond today. That's the vision, and that's what I will be working with you to promote through this partnership. So I look forward to robust and effective collaboration. And I hope we build up something that is a palette for across government, and I could be scaled up in other sectors as well.
Niala Vapla is the Director General of the Liberia Institute of Public Administration. There, speaking earlier on, you heard the voice of Cali Relief Services Country Representative Gladys Cummins John. They spoke at the signing of the MOU between the two institutions. Finally, casual workers of the Ministry of Youth and Sports are demanding the settlement of their 7 months salary arrears. The workers on Wednesday staged a peaceful protest at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, demanding their just benefits. Speaking to journalists Wednesday, Louis Pate explained that since Minister Ko Bangalu took over, they are yet to receive salaries for 7 months, despite promising to work with them to ensure the youth among them are employed.
Louis Pate is my name. On the casual worker and work on the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We are here with peaceful protest, asking and appealing for the government of Liberia to come on our behalf, to intervene on our behalf, because we've been here for the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. Some have spent 16 years in the ministry without employment. He said that you're not going to start anybody. We should continue to work. That's why we should continue with the signing law. And we've been signing. After 3 months, we need to appreciate us. We're saying that this person. So from there, we decided to be motivated and work. So after July 19, 2024, when we went to him to invest, how our salary would be there. When he decided to pay her, he said, well, I don't need anybody that can leave the ministry of home. So we decided to ask him. We paid him for a while, we've been working, and he said he's not going to get rid of us. We told her to work. You encourage her, you motivate her to stay here and work. And we are staying here up to 7 months. Now you come here to say we should go. How are we going on? We have family. We have children that go to school. We have family that want to feed. How are we going on? So since then, I mean, the people to talk to us. They saw that they are going to pick us. They even wrote CSA. They wrote FANA. And then they came back to what they said that our payment was in process.
Louis P. is the spokesperson for the casual workers of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. They're demanding their 7 months salary arrears, taking us home on today's edition of the program News Desk. But as we go home, these are the stories that top the news program. President Joseph Marka appoints a national committee to oversee the proper reburial of former presidents William Aratoro and Samakando, says the initiative is part of broader efforts to reconcile the country. Following his conviction on drug charges, the Judicial Circuit Court in Grand Cape County sentences 42-year-old Abbas Sanon to 40 years in prison. The government of Liberia says it is bracing itself on the consequences of the United States suspension of aid in the tune of about 120 million United States dollars. And away from Liberia, South Africa's finance minister forced to postpone the unveiling of the national budget following sharp disagreements within the coalition government, according to the BBC. I'd love to say many thanks to our writers, contributors, correspondents for making today's edition of the program a success. Thanks to Orange Liberia and EcoBank Liberia Limited for their sponsorship. Marka Davis was here with the reading of the news bulletin. Kobo Sanga Sarah controlled and produced our sounds. Myean Torgbean was behind the camera as usual, bring us live on our live Facebook feed. My name is Johnson Gbarntolmah. I presented. Good night.
Ria TV, True FM.
Say Ria TV, True FM.
On Ria TV.
Into True FM 96.1.
What's the meaning of the black barrier?
The black barrier is to tell Joseph Barker if you don't organize yourself in a respectful manner, we'll keep your data like
You might say what you want to say, but for us, we are here to make sure we build our country, that we are respected. We have donors that are coming because of the confidence.
Some news summary of 12. My name is Hansen the represent. Welcome to news and analysis 30 minutes of news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and our one world.
Presenting this newscast is proudly sponsored by Orange Liberia and EcoBank Liberia Limited.
How is life after the presidency?
But before the presidency, the same life, that's what you see. I have a different life. You know, when I was not president, this life, that's what I live, you know, with my family and
I have a lot of interest in the health sector, the educational sector, and the agriculture sector. Roads, connecting roads.
Yeah, we are calling international community to come to intervene for us because, like I just stated previously, we don't know who to trust.
Always make sure to turn on to our
Ria TV and listening to True FM 96.1.